Hare Krishna, everybody.
Hey Rose, Hare Krishna.
Hello.
How are you? How are you?
I'm good. Looking forward to your class. Enlightenment.
Won- Wonderful.
That's enlightenment in our lives. Thank you so much for
You're
doing that.
welcome.
I appreciate it.
Wonderful, wonderful. Let me just set this up here and we'll be ready to go.
All right. And we're ready to start.
Never. All right. So here we are at our weekly session of Bhagavad Gita, and we're beginning a new chapter. We had the honor to go over the 10th chapter, which is the heart of the Bhagavad Gita. And now we're continuing our journey through the Gita. And we are beginning with chapter 11. And chapter 11 is also a very wonderful chapter. It's kind of a pivotal chapter where, Krishna in the 10th chapter, he's established himself um, as the supreme personality of Godhead. And he said that all these things, that all these opulences about me are just a spark of my splendor. So what is he doing now? Now he's going into a chapter known as the universal form, and that's Vira Rupa in Sanskrit, but also it's described as the Vishva Rupa. Vishva or Virat means the universal, and Rupa means form. So this is also known as the Vishva Rupa Darshan. So that means Vishva Rupa, the universal form, and Darshan means to be in the presence of. So in the presence of the universal form, and this is a yoga to be connected with the Supreme in this way. This is the yoga. How is it we connecting in the 11th chapter? Through understanding Krishna and his universal form. So that's where we're moving now. So from from the Gaudiya Vaishnava perspective, that's the Bhakti Yoga lineage that we're a part of. This Bhagavad Gita, the chapter 11, the Vishva Rupa Darshan Yoga, it's a pivotal chapter. And what do I mean by pivotal chapter? It's not the climax of the Gita, but it actually Krishna demonstrating practically all the things that he was saying to Arjuna, all the various opulences. If you remember, we discussed immanence and transcendence. And immanence means seeing God everywhere in everything, and transcendence means observing God's pastimes or activities or lila. So we have the distinct privilege in the chapter 10, Krishna was revealing. He is the essence of everything. And he went through so many different ways that he is the essence of the ocean. He is the essence of the wind, so many different ways he did. So this is a way of establishing the how do we say, the precedent? That's the word I was looking for. The precedent, because in India, many people claim to be God, false prophets or false avatars, etc. So one of the things that Prabhupada said about this particular chapter, and one of the things you can ask someone who is claiming to be God, if you happen to run across such a personality, is you can ask them to please show your universal form. Because Prabhupada said, this is what Krishna is setting up. He's showing his different features, the universal form feature, he spoke about the Paramatma feature, the feature that is Krishna within the heart, the feature of the forearm, Vishnu, And he's revealing his various ways that he can reveal himself. As I've said before, in the fourth chapter, Krishna says, "As they surrender unto me, I reciprocate accordingly, or I reward accordingly." So when someone wants to enter into a relationship in what's called the Aishwarya mood, and what is the Aishwarya mood? It means awe and reverence. And if we look at the various religious systems throughout the world, you mostly have an awe and reverential approach to God. That is there in the tradition of the Bhakti Yoga tradition. You can approach the Supreme in a mood of awe and reverence, but it doesn't stop there. And, Krishna is revealing universal form, this where the entirety of the universe is contained in this Virat Rupa, or this Vishva Rupa form of the Lord. All the demigods are there. Yeah, every aspect of the universe is contained within this form, and Arjuna is witnessing it because actually he asks Krishna to do this. And not so much, he's not asking for himself so that he becomes a believer. Because by this time, by the 11th chapter, Arjuna is already a believer. But he's doing this to set the precedent that God has these, number one, God has these many features. And number two, in order to establish the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, this universal form must be manifest in order to prove it. And Krishna manifested it to prove it. He only manifests this Virat Rupa, the universal form, on a few occasions. One occasion was in the courtyard of the Kauravas when Krishna was there petitioning the Duryodhan and his brothers to actually not try to usurp the throne from the Pandavas. And they didn't want anything of it. They didn't want to hear anything about it. And they were actually kind of ridiculing Krishna. So Krishna revealed it then partially. He reveals it to Arjuna here in the Bhagavad Gita. And there are a few more instances. Mother Jasoda, when she opens Krishna's mouth to check if he's been eating dirt, and he manifests the universal feature there. And there was a sage whose name I can't remember right now, begins with a U, but that sage was having doubt, that Krishna was the supreme. And then they were walking together, and when he turned around, Krishna had manifested this form. So only on a few occasions, but in each time it establishes the principle that who Krishna is and why he has and why we should take his authority seriously, particularly in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita. Because what Krishna is giving, he's not only pacifying his friend Arjuna, but he's giving a template for humanity on how to deal with the various challenges that come up in their life, which may cause us depression, despair, lamentation, sadness, etc. And knowledge, Krishna, because what is the first thing that Krishna does? After Arjuna says, I'm bewildered, I need to become your disciple, your devotee, your student, and please, can you advise me? And after that, and Krishna agrees to do that, after that, what does Krishna do? He begins to give Arjuna knowledge. And it's with this knowledge that we can overcome, because what do we overcome? We overcome doubt. We overcome bewilderment. We overcome confusion. If we look at our lives honestly, most of our suffering in our lives has come from our mind and the way the mind becomes bewildered, confused, etc., and absorbed in lamentation, being overwhelmed by the modes of ignorance, tamagun, and rajagun. And so in this bewildered state, we can either take a turn to further depths of ignorance. And what does ignorance mean? It means to ignore. It's like, what do they say? The ostrich sticking its head in the sand and thinking that it's covered. That because his eyes are covered, he's thinking that everything is covered, but his whole body is sticking out. So sticking our heads in the sand and trying to ignore the reality of our situation. The reality of our situation is we succumb to a mind that has been influenced by tamagun and rajagun, or ignorance and passion. And therefore, in that state of bewilderment and in that state of ignorance, we suffer. And in order to alleviate Arjuna's suffering, Arjuna's challenge of the moment, Krishna gives him profound knowledge. And that is the lesson for us. This is why the Bhagavad Gita has been in existence and been not only read, but in terms of who's reading Bhagavad Gita, the number of people that have been exposed to the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita since the time that it has been spoken has increased so much. Usually, it's only considered only two types of people read the Bhagavad Gita prior to Srila Prabhupada coming to the Western world and disseminating this knowledge. Two people. Basically, it was either Hindus, a person who adhered to the Hindu religion, or academicians, people in the field of religion, and especially in Asian philosophies or Asian religions. Those are the only two people. And the general person, the rank and file person, really didn't have contact with the Bhagavad Gita and the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. But now, due to Srila Prabhupada's efforts, stemming way back to 1965, and the enthusiasm for distributing this knowledge, now people from every culture, practically speaking, has been exposed, or at least has the opportunity to be exposed to the wisdom of Bhagavad Gita. So this is a very important point and principle to understand. So now back to the 11th chapter, the universal form. The universal form, when it is revealed to Arjuna, and one particularly interesting note, as I said, Arjuna was not asking because he was still in doubt or he was still in bewilderment. That's long been gone. That's long gone because Krishna has given him so much information about the soul, karma, the various aspects of the divine manifestation. He's given Arjuna such a wealth of spiritual knowledge. That's long gone. Arjuna's faith is right there. His understanding and his clarity is right there. So now he's asking so that he can have Krishna establish unequivocally that he is the supreme, and that people who see him as such, he's not just, everyone accepts he was a historical figure. And some people say he was a great historical figure. And some people say that Krishna was a prophet. And, there are many different perspectives according to the amount of cataract you have over your eyes. In other words, in the beginning stages of cataract, you may see a little bit fuzzy, but as cataract progresses, your vision is more and more blinded until eventually you can become totally blind by cataract. So that's a comparison to ignorance. Depending on how deep the ignorance is, this is how you will see or not see at all the manifestations of the Supreme. So Krishna manifests himself in different ways in order to approach different levels of perspective, different stages of material cataract. And then when the cataract is removed, then clarity of vision is established. When I had my cataracts removed, I no longer needed glasses. These are my reading glasses, but my distance seeing, which I couldn't see signs or anything. I needed glasses really badly. And even when I was wearing glasses, it got so bad, I still couldn't see clearly, even with the glasses on. But now, without the glass, these glasses have clear glass up top, and they have reading glasses on the bottom. So what I have now is a full range of vision. I can see far away, clear, and now because I have the reading glasses on, I can see, close up, clear also. So this is Premanjana Charita Bhakti Velochanena Sandak Sadaivari Desho Velokayanti. So Premanjana Charita Bhakti Velokayana. When you smear your eyes with the salve of love, then material illusion is removed. And the more you hear, the more your faith grows deep. There's even I was surprised to find out there's even a verse in the Bible. I think it's Romans 10:17, and in that particular verse it says that one who hears the word of God, then clarity is there and love develops. So it's a very similar principle to the Bhakti Yoga perspective, that the more we are able to hear about the knowledge coming from Krishna's lips in Bhagavad Gita, about Krishna in books like the Bhagavad Purana or Srimad Bhagavatam, the more we're able to hear, the more we bathe our intellect with this pure spiritual sound vibration, the more the cataract of illusion is removed. So that's why the emphasis is there. So at the end of the chapter 10, how does Krishna conclude? He says, with a single fragment of myself, I pervade and support this entire universe. So after hearing that, Arjuna naturally wonders, if all the universe exists with only one portion of you, what does that actually look like? So he starts pondering what the universe looks like. And that's why he asks Krishna to reveal the universal form. Thus, chapter 11 is not about Arjuna asking because he doubts who Krishna is and what is Krishna's capabilities. This he already believes. He's already convinced of this. Rather, he wants confirmation for future generations. Arjuna's dialogue with Krishna is actually like two actors on a stage. Krishna, the Supreme, Arjuna, pretending to be an illusion and asking questions for our benefit and for our children's benefit and our children's children's benefit, and so forth and so on. So that there is, if one has sincerity and honesty and wants to know what is the purpose of life, the wisdom is there. It is at our disposal through sacred texts like the Bhagavad Gita. So he wants this confirmation from a future generation. And Arjuna asks, so people can not claim that Krishna was merely an or extraordinary human being or a prophet or whatever, but actually in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is making these statements, who he actually is, what is our purpose in life, how do we connect to him, the whole 9 yards in terms of going from preliminarily having some information, some knowledge that helps us elevate all the way up to having complete faith in the process of bhakti and the hearing process within bhakti, the hearing of mantra like the Hare Krishna mantra, hearing of katha, like or topics that are contained in Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, all of these things in order to establish one way to remember this whole chapter, Keshava Swami out of London, he gave a nice acronym when he refers to the 11th chapter. He says, just think of Rupa. What is Rupa? Form. So the acronym Rupa, R means Arjuna's request. Arjuna's asking Krishna, can you kindly show me your universal form? So that's kind of like the first several the verses. And one interesting note, I was going to say this before, and I've neglected to do that. Krishna, his first response is, you are not qualified, your eyes are not qualified to see that, Arjuna, but I will give you transcendental vision. Divya chakshush. Divya means transcendental, chakshush means vision. So again, it underscores that bhakti yoga is the yoga of grace, the yoga of mercy, in that by Krishna's grace, he is giving Arjuna the eyes by which he can see this form. So R in Rupa stands for request. U what is he requesting? To see the universal form. So R request, U universal form. P Arjuna in the 11th chapter, he gives heartfelt prayers. Form, Rupa, R, request, U, universal form, P, the prayers of Arjuna, and A, which finishes the acronym Rupa, A means armed form. So what does armed form refer to? Ultimately, what happens is once the awe-inspiring, almost visually overwhelming feature of the universal is there, Arjuna asks Krishna, please, I want to see your two-armed form of Shamasundar. Why? Because that's the form of love. It's not the form of awe and inspiration. It's the form of love, pure love. So Arjuna wants to get back to that situation where he's relating with Krishna out of pure love. And that's the distinction between other paths, because there are many paths that lead you up the mountain. But the path of bhakti leads you up the mountain. It's the most direct path. I think I told you this story where I was in Manali in India, which is the foothills of the Himalayas. And there was a holy place there, Arjuna Gufas, the cave where Arjuna meets Lord Shiva and they battle, and Lord Shiva blesses him with divine weapons and all that. And I wanted to go to that location. And so I took a taxi out of the town of Manali into the foothills. And the driver barely spoke any English. But I told him Arjuna Gufa, and because Gufa, I believe, means cave. So the cave of Arjuna. Of course, he knew that because it was a holy place. And he takes me to the area, and he stops, and then he points up the mountain, and he says Arjun Gufa. So I look up the mountain. I don't really see anything, and there are no signs. And I said to the driver, where? And he just keeps pointing to the top of the mountain. So I figured that's all I was going to get out of him, and I just start wandering and see if I made it up the mountain. So I follow this beaten path. Later on, I found out it was the path of the shepherds that were herding their sheep, but it wasn't going up the mountain to Arjuna Gufa. I found that later on. And when I finally asked one of the residents of the mountainside it was also a place where there were groves, really beautiful groves of apple trees and lots of sheep, etc. So this is I'm wandering up. I asked this resident, I'm starting to feel very lost. And I said, Arjun Gufa, and he's laughing at me, And he said, Arjun Gufa. No, Arjun Gufa. And he points back and up. So I kind of, in my own way, because he didn't speaking, in my own way, I'm begging him, can you please show me, show me? So he got the point, and he was a local, so he knew it well. And then he bounds up the side of the mountain. It wasn't really a path. So, but like a very agile deer, he's bounding up the side of the mountain, and he gives me a direct path to Arjuna Gufa. So when I'm there, there's a sadhu there who lives there, sage, and he spoke English, and we had a nice conversation. He gave me some chapati, and we discussed. And then I said I wanted to go back down, and he said, "Oh, I'll show you direct path." And then he shows me this path. So I mean, there's many. The point being, the long-winded point that I'm making is there are many ways to get up the mountain, and some of the paths may take you to the top. Some of the paths may not, but there are many paths. So Arjuna, he wants a direct path to understand, who is Krishna and how do we reach Krishna. And that's Bhakti Yoga gives us the most comprehensive and direct and enjoyable path. Our bhakti is not a yoga system of detachment or renunciation. It's actually a yoga system of attachment. When we become attached to Krishna through hearing about him, then we develop this feeling inside, this sentiment, this love sentiment, where we want to hear and be in association with Krishna more and more. So that's the Bhakti Yoga system. So remember Rupa, meaning request, universal form. So Arjuna is asking questions to Krishna about the universal form and the revelation of the universal form. Arjuna is going through some nice prayers. And then eventually Arjuna begs Krishna to go back to his two-armed form. So R, request, U, universal form, P, prayers of Arjuna, A, the two-armed form, the beautiful two-armed form of Shyam Sundar. So let's begin with text 11.1. I didn't even turn. Here we go. This must be, here we are. Okay. So as I normally do, I will read the Sanskrit and then give you the translation. So text 1 of the universal form, Vishva Rupa Darshan Yoga, reads, Arjuna Uvacha. Uvacha means says. So anytime you see Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, that means Krishna says. Or Arjuna Uvacha, that means Arjuna says. So Arjuna says, Mad anugrahaya paramam guyam atyatma sangitam yat tyak choktam pachastena
Пойду по двору пройдусь, они уже сейчас должны подъехать.
muho
Я
yam
взяла твои
vigata
ключи, то, что
mama.
тут нет ключа. А ты, ну вот это, которая с это, там есть мой синий.
Okay. So this is the translation of that verse, text 1, 11th chapter. Arjuna said, by my hearing the instructions you have kindly given me about these most confidential spiritual subjects, my illusion has now been dispelled. So that's why we're saying here, Arjuna is convinced the illusion, the confusion that was occurring in the first chapter and the beginning of the second chapter, Krishna has dispelled that illusion through wisdom, through knowledge. And Arjuna saying, yeah, I'm convinced. And then text 2 reads, already got it. Text 2 reads, O lotus-eyed one, I have heard from you in detail about the appearance and disappearance of every living entity and have realized your inexhaustible glories. So Arjuna is saying, just by hearing about you in detail, living entities, karma, devotional service, bhakti, the other yoga systems like karma yoga, jnana yoga, that I have realized, I have understood your great glories. Inexhaustible means untiring glories. So text 3 reads, O greatest of all personalities, O supreme form, though I see you here before me in your actual position, as you have described yourself, I wish to see how you have entered into this cosmic manifestation. So we see in text 1, Arjuna is expressing his gratitude. It's quite natural when we receive something of great value, right? And we have the recognition that we have seen this, that we have received a gift of great value, that we're grateful for it. Maybe your father, when you graduated high school or college, gave you a car or gave you, some money or whatever. Your birthday comes and a person gives you a gift. You're very grateful for this. So Arjuna is first expressing his gratitude. He's not asking Krishna for another revelation so that he can be more convinced. He's already convinced. The faith is there. And he acknowledging that the knowledge, the wisdom that Krishna has given him is the cause of him having this faith, this intense belief in Krishna as the supreme. This Arjuna is displaying the perfect mood of a disciple. Now, when we use the word disciple, it means student of a qualified teacher. Because in relationship to Bhakti Yoga, Srila Prabhupada always used the word in relationship to teacher or guru. He always prefaced it by saying bona fide or qualified. Usually he would say bona fide. But what that means is a qualified teacher. It's not just someone that, may know Sanskrit or may have been around the Bhagavad Gita for many years and is a good speaker, but it is someone who is qualified to speak because not only do they talk the talk, they walk the walk. And that means they are also putting into effect these teachings into their lives. This is an important part. We hear, we reflect on what we've heard, and then what's the next step? We assimilate it into our lives. So a teacher, a qualified teacher of the philosophy and psychology of yoga, sacred texts like Bhagavad Gita, they have to be qualified. And proof of their qualification is that they are living it. They're living the philosophy. It's not just an academic pursuit or an intellectual pursuit. It goes beyond intellect because the intellect is not equipped to understand this knowledge because it is unknowable. Some of the names of Krishna is unknowable. He's unknowable. He's not known. You can't know God with the stretch of your imagination or your intellect. It had the knowledge and the realization has to be given to you. You have to be blessed with it. And when you do, when a symptom of you truly being blessed is that you do it. You start acting in a way that is being recommended by the knowledge. How do you adjust your lifestyle? So it's properly directing you or creating within you, externally and internally, the environment by which the seed of bhakti can grow. Just like if you're a gardener and you don't pick the weeds in the garden, nor do you put any fertilizer, nor do you water it properly, nor according to what you're growing, is there sufficient sun or too much sun? All these details have to be considered. So when you following bhakti yoga, there's a great deal of knowledge, of wisdom of what bhakti is and how to follow it. But quite often we either don't understand it, can't relate to it, so we need help. And Arjuna, who is very intelligent and very pure hearted and very dedicated to serving humanity and God, he needed help. So if he needed help to get out of his bewilderment, what's our position? So this is, our position is we need the help. Therefore, we need to have the association of someone who is living the wisdom that they are speaking. There's knowledge and then there's example. And of the two, example is more powerful. But you can see how to structure your lifestyle by observing someone who has that lifestyle of bhakti. Because bhakti yoga, it's not just, you go in and you put in you go into the yoga studio and you put your card and you're registered, and then you go practice, and you go practice 1, 2, 3 times a week, and that's it. Yoga, bhakti in particular, bhakti yoga is a lifestyle. And it's something that, one has to embrace vigorously. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra describes sadhana as that which is performed um, regularly or consistently over a long period of time. So the principal attributes of bhakti, chanting, sadhu sangha, associating with great advanced people, devotees in the bhakti yoga system, studying the sacred text and self-study, try to understand what little traps are there that your mind puts forward so that you can be distracted from the real goal of life. Going to places that inspire you, sacred places, holy places, and then within your home, establishing a ritual, a sadhana that will help you to understand all of these points. So this is it. So Arjuna is displaying through his gratitude the mood of a disciple, the perfect mood of a disciple. So, in 2, he said, I have heard from you about the creation and destruction of all beings and your inexhaustible glories. So notice he says there, I have heard, right? I am reflecting. I must assimilate. And the fourth point of it, in terms of that whole system of hearing, reflecting, assimilating, is then sharing it, sharing the wisdom that you hear, even if you only understand a little bit, even if you only remember one little bit, if you share that little bit of wisdom, it becomes deeper within you. It becomes a samskara, an impression that deepens within your heart. It's like when you walk a path, you continue walking that path, right? And my dog runs a path in our yard. We have nice grass, except where she consistently runs. Now it's become a path. So she continually runs that same path, and she has created, no grass and a path there. So when we consistently hear and chant, and we create that path, that wisdom, that sanskars within the core of our heart, then it becomes deep. And the result of sanskaras, of impressions, is inclination. It creates an inclination to do bhakti. That is an important principle. It creates the inclination of what you are hearing with. Like scientists say, with neurons, right? If you continually repeat something, that becomes your perspective. You are shaping, literally, psychologically, You are shaping your perspective depending on what you are putting out repeatedly. Oh, I'm so angry. I'm so disturbed. I'm so this. I'm so, you know, you continually put that out. You are shaping what you will feel and what your perspective will be on the world. Everything will now be a cause of disturbance. Everything will now be justifiable for your anger. Everything will now be cause for your sadness, cause for your lack of enthusiasm. So many different things like that. So the scientists have established this constant repeating of a certain thought pattern. The creation of a thought pattern creates a path. And it's up to us to choose whether you want that path to be a negative path, where your perspective of your life is negative, the source of your constant agitation, irritation, illusion, sadness, anger, all of these different things, or you reconfigure that. You establish the path of positivity. And that is by, there's a very famous verse in the 10th chapter, I think it's 10:14:8 in the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto rather. And it describes, Lord Brahma describes the perspective of one who is seriously practicing bhakti yoga. He says in that, and I'll paraphrase it, he says in that verse that we have to understand and embrace the fact that we're the cause of our suffering. The cause of our suffering is not external, but it is how we have created a certain perspective. What are we meditating on? Krishna says, Dhyayato Vishayam Pungsa Sangaste Shu Bhajayate Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Bhajayate. That what we contemplate, whatever we contemplate, becomes our attachment. So if we create a negativity, a path of negativity, right? If we have trod the path of negativity, then that becomes our perspective. And it's going to be the cause of our suffering. And the thing is, the more you go down that road, the more every little aspect of your life is affected by the path of negativity. In extreme measures, you can hardly find anything good in your life, and that leads certain people to suicide. That they can't find a reason to live because everything that's happening to them, oh, why is this happening to me? Why is this person saying this about me? Why is this person doing this to me? Why did my beloved leave me? Why, et cetera, et cetera. So this is an important principle to understand. Arjuna, in the third verse here, he's saying, I accept everything you have said is truth. Then he asks, I desire to see your divine form. Why does he do that? It's extremely important. He's asked only after believing. He's not asking Krishna as a means where his faith can grow stronger. He's asking from a place of faith, a position of faith. He does not say seeing is believing, right? That's not what Arjuna is saying here. He's saying, I believe, but I want to see it. Believing leads to true seeing. So the more we strengthen our faith, then the more we are positioning ourselves to actually see truth as it is. Why ask to see? There's three reasons. One, and this is established by the great teachers of the past and Srila Prabhupada. One, he's asking to establish Krishna's divinity forever, many future philosophers would deny him or minimize him. Arjuna asks on behalf of humanity so that they can see actually how valuable this knowledge is, from where it is coming. 2, to satisfy curiosity. A pure devotee of Krishna naturally wants to appreciate every aspect of Krishna. So he's asking because, wow, you have a universal form, you have a four-armed feature, you are Brahman, you are Paramatma. This is absolutely amazing. So that curiousness, which propels us to ask questions which are beneficial for our advancement. And third, it's an attempt to glorify Krishna. This chapter demonstrates Krishna's unlimited power. After he's revealed in the 10th chapter all of these divine opulences and essences, and now we get a sense of the power that Krishna can manifest. So it's a notice the humility of Arjuna. He does not demand. He's requesting. With hands folded, he's requesting Krishna, please, if you think I am qualified. And Krishna basically tells him, no, you're not qualified. But I will give you the qualification to see me and to see this form. Divyam chakshush. This is Arjuna is exemplifying the mood of bhakti. Spiritual vision is never forced. It is bestowed. It is a blessing given to us. And that's what we need. That's the kind of mood we need to develop. We have to develop the mood of, please, I may not understand. Can you kindly, can you kindly reveal this to me so I can understand it? So, lesson, God cannot be conquered by the intellect, only by his mercy. Verse 4, if you think that I am able to behold your cosmic form, O my Lord, O Master of all mystic power, then kindly show me that unlimited universal self. So here is where Arjuna is petitioning, humbly, not with arrogance or demanding. I want to see you. Now show me. No, he's not demanding. Humbly asking. 5, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna said, my dear Arjuna, O son of Pritha, see now my opulences, hundreds of thousands of varied, divine, multicolored forms. So, boom, we have the manifestation of the Virat Rupa, or the Vishva Rupa, or the universal form. Text 6, O best of the Bharatas, we see here the different manifestations of Adityas, Vasus, Rudras, Ashwini Kumars, and all the other demigods. These are various categories of demigods, like the Adityas born from Aditi, the Vasus, the Rudras coming from Lord Shiva, the Ashwini Kumaras, who are the twin demigods in charge of Ayurveda. So we're beginning, Krishna is beginning to say, here it is. Here's the universal form. Here are the many faces of the universal form, the many arms, the many limbs. And now he begins to describe just in brief, what the universal form, the Vishvarupa, looks like. So, okay. Text 7. Oh, Arjuna. So let me get here. Text 7. Oh, Arjuna, whatever you wish to see, behold at once in this body of mine. This universal form can show you whatever you now desire to see and whatever you may want to see in the future. Everything, moving and non-moving, is here completely in one place. So no one can see the entire universe sitting in one place. Can you go out in your backyard and look up in the sky and see the entire universe in one place? Even the most advanced scientist cannot do this. Whatever telescope or whatever material instrument they may have, they cannot see the entirety. They can only see a little vision, a little spot of the universe. Can't see everything that's going on in all the universe. But a devotee like Arjuna can see everything that exists in any part of the universe. Krishna gives him the power to be able to see. He's bestowed. He's blessed with that ability, with that divyam chakshush, with that spiritual vision. We have divyam chakshush, spiritual vision, and we have maya chakshush, where we only see the material elements around us, right? So these are depending on how you direct your life. What is your primary purpose in life? If it's to enjoy, then you will see how you can enjoy the world around you. You'll become, if you're intelligent, you'll become very sophisticated and seeing how what are the various ways and means that you can enjoy the world around you. And you begin to develop a mentality and a mindset and a perspective of seeing everything for your enjoyment. Every woman if you're a man, every woman that you meet, oh, she's for my enjoyment. If you're a woman, conversely, everything, money, for me, my enjoyment. All of these things become that finely tuned mechanism of the intellect to see how I can get the most out of everything. Devotee, conversely, this is why Krishna is doing what he's been doing, being able to see everything in relationship to God, to Krishna. We wouldn't have any of these things unless we were blessed. So we appreciate, we're grateful for the blessing to recognize from whence it comes. This is really a divine blessing. Text 8, but you cannot see me with your present eyes. So Krishna goes, all the way up to this point. Therefore, I give you divine eyes. Divyam, the chakshusha divyam, Krishna says, I give you the divine eyes, and behold my mystic opulence. So, text 9, now the conversation changes, because if you remember in our discussions in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, I said there are two sets of dialogue. The primary dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, where Krishna is speaking, out of the 550 or 600 verses that are spoken by Krishna and Arjuna. Krishna speaks the majority of them, and Arjuna also speaks in terms of query. He asks questions. But the secondary conversation, which makes up about 80 to 90 different verses, are spoken by Sanjay. And Sanjay is the teacher of Dhritarashtra, the blind king. So Sanjay says in the 9th verse, he says, O king, having spoken thus, the supreme Lord of all mystic power, the personality of Godhead, displayed his universal form to Arjuna. So Arjuna requests and Krishna reciprocates, because Arjuna's request comes from gratitude, it comes from humility, it comes from sincerity, a sincere desire to know the supreme truth in its features. All these things are coming to Arjuna because he meets the qualification of humility. And another qualification, and this is a big one, and Krishna has said this in the 9th chapter. Idang tu te guyatamang pravaksham yanasive gyanam sahitam yajgadva mokshashe shubat. That because Arjuna, you are not envious of me. In other words, when Krishna says that, non-envious of means that we really see our position in the world. Rather than viewing our position as the enjoyer, everything is here for me to enjoy, we see this as the position of the finite living entity trapped in the illusion that all this material energy is for my exploitation. So that's the distinction that in terms of the perspective that one can develop. Either be in total illusion, this is mine, I am the center of the universe, and everything is meant for my enjoyment, or with humility, with gratitude, and with non-envy, we develop the perspective that God is the center of our universe, and we are here to show our gratitude. That's where and proof of the beginning of our connection, the beginning of our yoga, our linking up with the absolute truth, to realize that truth. Because when we don't realize that truth, that means we're under illusion. And illusion means you can't see or understand the truth as it is. And that is, according to Bhagavad Gita, the source of our suffering. So Krishna's whole point is to get Arjuna into a place where he sees the reality of his situation. And once he does, all doubt, all fear, all sadness dissipates. And that is the template for our own life, for dealing with our own problems, our own issues. There's so if you ask, I have a friend, he's a PhD in psychology. He studied in a very good school. He got his PhD. He's been a practicing psychologist for, 30 years now, maybe more. If you ask him, do the psychologists really believe that they know the nature of the mind and how to deal with it? And from his perspective, after practicing for so many years, no, they don't know. They really don't know. So that is why, what does knowledge means? It means to know. So the real knowledge that Krishna is emphasizing here is to know the nature of truth. What is our truth? That's the way we get out of illusion, to know what is our truth. So let me just read text 10 and 11, and then I'll ask for questions. So listen carefully. So Arjuna saw in that universal form unlimited mouths, unlimited eyes, unlimited wonderful visions. The form was decorated with many celestial ornaments and bore many divine upraised weapons. He wore celestial garlands and garments, and many divine scents were smeared over his body. All was wondrous, brilliant, unlimited, all expanding. So we'll stop there. That's the beginning of a description of what Arjuna is saying, and a little bit of an explanation so that Arjuna can see and understand clearly. So we'll stop here. Does anyone have any question or comment? Great. This is a great section Um, Krishna is saying here what he said in the 10th chapter, that this fulfills this understanding and this vision, this Virat Rupa is fulfilling the spark of the splendor that Krishna is talking about in the 10th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So, question, comment? I just want to remind everyone that we are live streaming this and every class prior to this class. So if you're joining us you're new to the group, don't be dismayed that now you're coming in at the 11th chapter. The analogy that Prabhupada gives is, I don't know if you've ever had sugar cane. If you have a stalk of sugar cane, anywhere you bite into it, it's sweet. So if you bite into it at the 11th phase, it's sweet. If you bite into the first phase, it's sweet. So you're not at a loss. And if you want to catch up to where we are now, and I also invite you, I am open to questions even outside the class. Most of you are friends of mine on Facebook. You feel free to ask a question in your reading, or if you go back and you're listening to classes and something comes up, please feel free to, shoot a question to me. I'll be happy to answer it. So this evening, does anyone have observation, takeaway points, or questions that would help you meditate on what we've discussed this evening in chapter 11, texts 1 through 10? Actually, we went to 11 because 10 and 11 were together. So 1 through 11. Anyone? Please feel free to speak up and give us the benefit of your
Can,
keen sense of
can,
emotion.
can I say something?
Absolutely. Who's this?
Rose,
Yes, Rose.
yeah, it's amazing how we're studying this chapter now, because I've been talking to a person, and he thinks he's God. He thinks he's
Right.
God. He believes he's God. And I, like, the entire time I'm listening, like, oh my God, like, and then at the end, you ended up with this question about the mind. Does anybody know uh, what 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 our minds are capable of doing or not doing or changing? Or and I keep thinking, like, is this person ever gonna change and understand that, have the humility to know that no, you're not God, you're just a
Now,
servant of God. That's what it should be. Ah,
now that requires honesty and it requires sincerity. And if you can't be honest with yourself, then you'll never. The first thing you have to realize and accept is we're suffering. And second thing is I don't like it. Unless you're, of course, a masochist and you find pleasure in suffering. But most people, will admit I don't like to suffer. I want to be happy all the time. It's because that's the nature of the soul, and the soul is who we really are. Because if you look at it objectively and logically, the body goes through changes, disease, old age, ultimately death. And no, none of these things are really desirable. So, that's the environment that we're in. We're in an environment where we're born, we take birth, and we grow and we develop. And, in the course of our growth and development, we get diseased. And, so many things happen that goes against what we really envision in terms of our life and our desires. So until a person, what is Lord Buddha's Four Noble Truths? The first noble truth in Lord Buddha's teaching is all is suffering. Because anywhere in yoga, the philosophy of yoga, anywhere, any discipline, any serious discipline that has philosophy, see, because Prabhupada would often say, is religion without philosophy is sentiment. It's just sentimental. And it's the same thing with yoga. Yoga without philosophy is sentiment. You don't have the depth of knowledge to distinguish. Intelligence means the ability to discern or to distinguish. So without the philosophical, and this is why I emphasize so heartily, understanding the philosophy of yoga as contained here in the Bhagavad Gita. Psychology of yoga is contained in the Yoga Sutras. The sweetness of relationship with God as contained in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So religion or yoga, however you want to term the practice, without knowledge, without philosophy, just is sentimental. But the philosophy without the practice is just dry speculation, mental speculation. Because you can hear so many things and you can ponder it endlessly, but until you put it into effect, jnana progresses to vijnana. Knowledge goes to realization, and realization gives us the perspective, the clarity of vision. That's when we're bestowed with clarity of vision or perspective. When we put the knowledge to work in our lives, and it goes beyond just speculation or just academics, but it comes, where I want to be free from suffering. I'm following the same direction that Krishna is giving Arjuna, and I'm becoming free from my suffering. Not that there won't be pain in your life, loss, you lose someone, you're going to feel it. It's not that you become like a stone, but it means you're able to see things in proper perspective. Then what is death? Death is the embracing of my eternal life. You can see it that way. Or you can be afraid of death because you don't know. Again, not knowing, therefore knowledge. And beyond knowledge, gyan, beyond knowledge is vijnana, realization. So all of these things are very important for us. Anybody
Thank you.
else?
Thank you very
Any
much.
questions? Huh?
I just said thank you very much, Hare Krishna.
Oh, okay, Rose. I thought maybe you had a follow-up question. Anybody else have anything to ask or add or observe, or any takeaway point that you're going away with, saying, "Wow, that rang a bell." Could share your bell ringing with the other bell ringers, and then we'll become an orchestra. No one else? Okay, folks. I thank you so much for your kind attention, and you're giving us your association. And have a happy, healthy, and holy week. And I will see you next week, same time, same station.
Haribo.
Hari Hari Bol.
Jai Lakshmi.
Hari Bol. Jai Mukti.
राधे राधे
Radhe Shyam. Thank you.
हरि बोल प्रभु
Oh,
Hari Hari.
you.
Jai
Thank
Krishna
you, Hare
Prasad.
Krishna.
Hari Bol.